Have you ever wondered what game you'd get if you mixed Darkest Dungeon and Doom? Let me give you a small glimpse of that. Looks pretty awesome, huh? Well, that's exactly what we'll be talking about in this video. We're about to dive into the Eldritch with Forgive Me Father 2. First off, before I start talking about the game, I'd like to make it known that this was given to me by the developers. First game ever that I got from any dev, by the way. Take that as you will, but I'll be giving this game the same treatment I do with my other reviews. I'll be talking about mainly the story, gameplay, and replay value of the game, along with any hiccups and things I didn't like along the way. This review will have spoilers in them. You've been warned. Hope your FPS skills aren't rusty. You'll be needing them in this game. Let's start with the story. I haven't played the first game, so I went in without any knowledge or context of what went down before, which led to the second game. The opening cutscene though gives you a little bit to work with. You're a priest who's been through hell, fighting supernatural beings, and eventually defeated the big bad of the last game. It's not all happy endings though, since it seems that whatever you were fighting isn't finished with you, and now you have to go and cut the loose ends. The game starts off pretty chill, nothing too out of this world. You take care of a few lanky looking guys or some dudes in prison outfits. A few of them shoot back at you, no big deal. In some sections of the game, you're given the opportunity to check out letters, newspapers, pictures, and the likes that give you more context on the game's story and your character's backstory. I honestly didn't take the time to read them all since I was more hooked on what I thought was the better part of the game that we'll be talking about later, the gameplay. A few hours in though, and you'll notice that things change a bit. Enemies start getting a bit tentacly. Some look like they came from a war, while others look like they came from a church. Guess there's a bit more history to dig out from the depths of the priest's mind, huh? I'll let you guys figure out the rest from here. All I can say is that while I liked the gameplay more than the story didn't disappoint as well. It's straightforward, it's easy to follow, but what surprised me was at key points in the game, it actually gives you a choice. They're basically there to ask you a moral question, and for my first run, I went with all the good options. Or at least I think they were the good ones. Not sure if choosing the other one would change the story in any meaningful way, but I'll guess I'll find out in my second run. Now what I didn't like about the story was how it ended. As is normal of these kinds of games, the ending is the climax of it all, and where you get your answers. I did get my answers, but I didn't like them. I won't tell you how it ended, so you can experience it yourself, but I feel like the ending was just too abrupt. Like the energy was constantly increasing the whole game, and then it suddenly crashed to zero at the ending. Not that I hated the game because of it, but it did take away from me wanting to go for another run, which we'll also get to in a minute. For now though, let's head on over to the gameplay section. Time to talk about what really hooked me into this game. If you've ever been a fan of games like Doom, then you'll be right at home with Forgive Me Father 2. They practically play the same, except that there aren't any execution animations you can do for supplies in this game, so you'll need to be a bit more mindful of your ammo. One way the game makes itself unique is through the Dark Tome system. It's basically a book where you can equip 3 abilities, either active or passive, to bring along with you to help with each level. These range from simple buffs like more health and higher ammo capacity to your bullet stunning enemies, lifesteal, and even damaging every enemy within your field of vision. I personally didn't use the active skills much, and I don't think you really have to in order to beat the game, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't get me out of some dicey situations. Since you can only bring a total of 3 skills at any time, choose wisely on which of them will complement your playstyle, or better yet, your loadout. Your loadout consists of a total of 6 weapons: a melee weapon, handgun, shotgun, rifle, an explosive weapon, and an exotic weapon. They pretty much speak for themselves, except for exotic type weapons that just have their own unique spin to them. At the beginning, you get the usual old school weapon types, but as you progress, you collect these tokens, which you can use to unlock other variants of each weapon type. These other variants aren't just skins though, they're all different within their categories, and their designs are just masterfully made. Just take a look at some of them, and how they reload. It's worth noting that some of the tokens are hidden within each level, so you'll really have to explore if you want to get all the guns on your first run. Speaking of levels, that's how the game progresses. You go through each part of the game, level by level, and at the end of each, you can go back to a hub, the Asylum. The Asylum is where you're able to replay previous levels, check out the story bits you've unlocked, purchase weapons and skills, and proceed to the next level. I'm pretty sure there's more to it than meets the eye with this hub, since there are a few places here that just look like they're hiding something. Let's talk enemies. If you can find the time to not shoot them immediately and take a close look at them, they capture the nightmarish vibe really well, and none of them get really crazy on their own. It's when you're being swarmed by a ton of them that it gets pretty difficult. I played this game on normal, and I found myself dying a few times. I can imagine how hectic it can get at harder difficulties. Eventually though, you'll reach some bosses. These bosses are great. No two bosses have the same mechanics, and how you fight them is always different from anything you've faced before. They're a breath of fresh air within the game, and it's always a fun challenge. My favorite boss was the one where you had to chase him down, avoid obstacles, and keep on shooting him, all while running away from a wall of lava. What I didn't like about the boss fights though were that they didn't give me anything after beating them. They usually show up at key points in the story, but other than just progressing the game, there's nothing you get from them. No currency to buy skills, no tokens to buy weapons, and no unique power-ups. I think that was a miss for the game. However, the biggest disappointment for me was the final boss. Same with how the story fumbled the bag at the end for me, this one was also just a big letdown. I was so ready for a final showdown with the true big bad of the story, me and him, one-on-one. But all that happened felt like some kind of mini-boss, and before I knew it, the game was over. It left me with a feeling of wanting more, just not in a good way. The gameplay truly is the bread and butter of the game. Old school run and gun mayhem through linear levels that hide a few secrets here and there. I have to say that at the later stages of the game, the level design is just immaculate. I'm not a big fan of eldritch horror, but I am a fan of Darkest Dungeon's art style, and this game closely resembles it. And that's about it for the gameplay. Now we move on to the replay value. It took me a little over 8 hours to finish the whole game on normal, and that's without trying to 100% all the collectibles. This would probably take around 10 to 15 hours for your first run if you really try to search every nook and cranny. Good thing is, you don't have to do everything on your first run. Yep, that's right, this game has NG+. NG+ in this game works as you'd expect it. You can start the game all over again, but with all the weapons and upgrades you got from your first run. There are a few other things you can tweak, like how much damage the enemies take, their health, infinite ammo, and so on. I think it's intended for you to either experiment, explore the levels at your own pace, or maybe there are added secrets in NG+. I wouldn't be surprised if there were. Before going NG+, though, the game already allows you to revisit levels anyway, including the boss fights, and that's a huge win for me. I'm not sure if choosing the other option during the key story points would change anything significant, but the gameplay itself is good enough to warrant a second run in my opinion. I think it's good to note as well that I never experienced a crash at all with this game. Everything went smoothly, except for some areas where the visual effects were heavy, but the performance never went down to an unplayable state. And that about wraps it up for the game review. It's a quick one for a quick and fast-paced game. I was actually itching for a shooter game and was planning to get Doom Eternal, but Forgive Me Father 2 definitely scratched that itch more than enough. So what do you think? Will you give it a try? Let me know in the comments below if you guys are going to get it. Huge thanks to the devs for the first ever Steam game code that I got from a developer for the purpose of making content. It means a lot, truly. Hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing, as it helps me out a lot. Holidays are coming up soon, and I'd like to believe you're all getting ready for a month full of fun and relaxation. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video.